I can't do it. Okay. We'll do it live.
Okay.
We'll do it live. It. Do it live. I'll write it and we'll do it live. Thing sucks.
Here we go. It is Tuesday, July 1st. It is another edition of the Daily Puck Drop. We come to you live every day from 10 to 11:30 on YouTube, Twitter. Also, you can listen to it on the Puck Sports mobile app. If you don't have the Puck Sports mobile app and you want to listen to the show instead of just watching all of our beautiful faces, you can do so. Just go to the App Store, download it for your iPhone, or go to Google Play and download it for your Android phone there as well. Now, if you want to watch or listen to any of this award-winning content every day, you can find everything up on YouTube once the show is over. Just search Puck Sports. Also, on your favorite podcast platform, that, of course, would be Apple, Spotify, wherever you find your preferred podcast platform. And you can find everything up at pucksports.com. Now, social media channels, because, boy, we're big on social media. Puck Sports on Twitter and Instagram, and also on Blue Sky, and Puck_sports on TikTok. And you can find our work up on Facebook. We post all of our video clips, show clips up on those platforms as well. As always, look at them. The world-renowned Limbach Lumber Studios. Been with us from the start. Best business in the world. Contractors, they're going to take care of you. All right. Everything they do is going to take care of you. From whole house packages, they offer free deliveries, whole house packages, and DIY projects. They're the best in the business. They've been doing it since 1930. It's a handshake. It's an agreement. You know you're going to be taken care of by Matt and Mark and Paul and everyone there, because they are a customer-first business, and that's why they've been open for nearly 100 years. You guys remember Smokey McPot? Remember Smokey back in the radio days? He just went to Limbach Lumber, sent me a picture of the receipt that he received there from Limbach Lumber. See, we're turning people over there all the time. You got a chance to buy some lumber, buy local. Just buy everything local. It's just better. Sometimes but you pay a little extra, sure, but it's local and it's better, and it's going back to great people. 206-782-3487 is the phone number. Visit them online at limbachlumber.com. And again, go to pucksports.com. Coming up next week or in a couple of weeks, you get your last pick in for the Puck to Picker Majors pool. Then we'll announce our winner, which is the grand prize package, stay and play package for 2 Gamble Sands, a couple of rounds of golf there, and you get to stay there. Second place prize, a foursome at Fairwood Golf and Country Club. Third place prize is a foursome there at Mill Creek. And fourth place is golf, one of Seattle Premier's courses, brought to you by Troon. Across the area, you get a foursome at one of their courses, plus an hour-long top tracer session. So get your picks in, or not yet, but I'm just warning you as we're getting closer there to the final Puck the Picker Majors pool. Also, that's where you can sign up to become a member of the Puck's Posse for as little as $5 a month. All right, coming up on the show today, Jim Duquette will join us as he normally does right around 10:10. Arozarnena milestone. We'll get into the Suarez trade talk. Jim Duquette, as I mentioned before, John Canzano, Texas State. And, of course, we wrap up every show with, Hey, What the Pucks? Well, they start off the homestand with a very good win, 6-2 yesterday. There over Kansas City. They improved to 4 games over 500. Houston was idle, so they've made up a half a game there on the Astros, 6 games now back there on the division. George Kirby, excellent. 1 earned run in 6 innings. Guess the only question I would have for Dan Wilson would be, why take him out after 85 pitches? Because 2 starts ago, he threw 101. And this is like, I mean, he's made a number of starts now, so I don't really quite understand why they did that. He had a lead, bottom of the lineup. Seems like he could have easily gone out there for 1 more inning. Maybe there was something else that he was dealing with. I don't know. But it led then to another curious decision. But again, I'm not sure why the governor was on him last night. Again, just two earned runs in his last 2 starts. Why did he go to Trent Thornton again? And many people on social media asked the same question. I agree. I was kind of wondering it myself when he trotted out there. Why? You just had pitched the night before 2 innings. The new guy, is it Burgos? Juan Burgos? He just got called up. You got a 5-run lead. Lineup is poor at the bottom. Why don't you just let him get a taste of it? I don't quite understand that decision there from Dan Wilson. And there's been some curious bullpen decisions from him this year, and that was one of them. I didn't quite understand that last night. I don't know. If somebody smarter out there than me, tell me why you think he did that, because not really sure why he decided to go there with Trent Thornton again, especially after him, pitching the other day. Let's see. Cal does it again. 33rd home run. He's one off now his career high, which he set last year. My God, he's got 71 ribbies. His high in his career is 100, which again was last year. Number 2 in offensive WAR. I think he's number 2 in overall WAR. It's just a machine. You know what is so stupid, though? And we talked about this on this week's Sports Pit, by the way, this all-star voting, which is now open to the public, by the way. And it closes, I think, Wednesday at 9, is how now all the fans get a vote. And that he is even in a battle, I'd like to say, with Alejandro Kirk to be the starting catcher. It's a joke. Just name him. There should be, if somehow Kirk gets more votes because he has an entire country voting for him, there has to be, like, Rob Manfred or someone in baseball needs to step in and go, no, Kirk is not starting. Cal Raleigh's going to start. Okay? We're not going to play this game. It's so stupid. I mean, that again, we talked a lot about this on the Sports Pit, just about how we just don't like the voting and how they do it, and just I don't get caught up in it. Can we just pick the All-Stars and just move on, okay? Because that would be much easier for everyone. So I don't know. Again, shouldn't even be close. The voting shouldn't be close at all there for Cal Raleigh. But again, the voting ends, I think it's, what did I say, Wednesday there at 9 a.m. But yeah, Cal, again, just magical. Just a magical season for Cal Raleigh. He's been great. Randy Arozarnena hitting the milestone. You watched the game last night. Gets to 100 home runs in his career, which is very cool. Hits a second one. And the good thing for Arozarnena, he has been playing better of late. Since the road trip, he can even extend it out besides that road trip. You go the last 11 games for Arozarnena. I mean, he's slashing 348, 404, 587, and 991. Both those home runs, opposite field, right center field, right field. It's a good sign because they need him to be able to hit. If they don't do anything at the deadline, which we hope they do. If they don't do anything at the deadline, and even if they do something, the guys behind Cal, if they're going to have this strategy where they just keep walking him, those guys have got to, I mean, Arozarnena, if Polanco, when he comes back and he's healthy, because now he's missed his 3rd straight game with that knee soreness, because that's back acting up again, bothering him. They're going to need guys behind Cal Raleigh to protect him, or they're just going to continue to do the same strategy of just walking Cal every single time. Cole Young, I've got a Ben Williamson crush because I love third base. I love the way he plays third base. Williamson, he's got just a great glove. The way he is so fundamentally sound as a third baseman, how he moves his feet, how he fields the ball, still as a professional, 2 hands down on the ground. Just, it's beautiful to watch. It's like third base porn for me. And then he's got just a cannon of an arm, a cannon. But the other one is Cole Young. This guy, 21, 3 years removed from high school. And he gets off to that little rough start, which, again, is going to happen to everybody when they're making their major league debut. This is what he has done. He was hitless in his first 5 games, was Cole Young. Since then, Cole Young is hitting .318 with an on-base percentage of .352. I mean, it's I'm telling you, man, this guy, his slugging is .379. His OPS is .731. This guy is going to be, has the chance to be just that solid, above solid second baseman who makes every play, Gets on base, hits, just always making contact, never hardly striking out. He's just fun to watch. And it's fun to watch him develop and get better and better and better and better with each game. But 3 hits last night there for Cole Young. And it just was fun to watch him continue to develop there as a hitter. The Suarez trade, we talked about it on Monday with Bill Kruger, and something that we'll bring up with Duquette in a few minutes. You go back and he's obviously going to be on the market when one would assume with where Arizona is and when Arizona decides to be sellers. And I think most in the industry believe that Arizona will decide to sell. Do you go out and reacquire him? I've heard some people theorize, and I don't necessarily disagree with this. Would it be egg on Jerry's face to go back out and get Geno Suarez? I mean, you think about he traded him to Arizona. And now I like Vargas. Vargas has been good in the bullpen, but Carlos Vargas and Zebby Zavala. That's what the deal was. Zavala and Carlos Vargas. And why did they do it? Money. All they wanted to do was save money. And now they're going to sit back around, and maybe they are in talks with Arizona. Maybe they aren't. Maybe it's just wishful thinking from Mariner fans. Maybe they have no desire to get him. But you start looking at what they traded him to, and what they got in return, and they simply did it for money. Because Geno Suarez was making what? $11.2 million in 2024. Then he had the club option for $15 million the next season. And they just decided they didn't want to spend money on that. In the same time, though, in 2024, he hands out a 2-year, $24 million deal to Mitch Garver. Then ends up paying Haniger this year $15.5 million. And all that Geno Suarez has done this year, well, first of all, team leader, great in the clubhouse. It's in 257. He's slugging .570 with 26 home runs and 69 runs driven. Hey, but they got Vargas and Zavala. Way to go, team. Let's talk more about that trade front, other baseball topics. He's our GM. He joins us every single Tuesday. Ladies and gentlemen, Sirius XM, Channel 89, our MLB GM, MLB Network Radio, former GM of the Mets and Orioles, all-around great guy, and he's the 12 and 13U Coach of the Year back east. Ladies and gentlemen, it's Jim Duquette. Hello, Jim. How are you?
Oh, you know what? You bring up a good point. Season is over. We're having our final end of season meeting, which I would suggest to you because you're still coaching this year as well.
Yeah, we just wrapped up.
You wrapped up.
Yeah.
I have a meeting with every kid and their parent to go through the season and what to look forward to for next year, things that they need to do to get better and things that they did well. And we're going through that tonight with a little bit of pizza, little get together. As well, little bribery, I call that, so that more people show up.
So, because their parents are like, I don't need another meeting. I don't need another get together. We just would like our summer back.
They're done, right? Every parent's done with the season. I mean, it's a long one, starting in January. So
yeah, it is
6
long.
months. Like it's a long one. So they don't want it, but I appeal to their sons and their love of pizza.
Yeah, well, it's a long season for you.
It is.
I mean, you need a break. So who's going to give you the pizza party? Huh? Who's going to give you the break?
You know, that's a great point. This is coming out of my pocket. It's my dime that I'm paying for the pizza. Yeah.
It shouldn't work that way. It should be the other way around. They should be paying the pizza for you.
That is all right. Yeah. I think I'm going to try to rearrange that next year to see if we can raise money for it.
You should. Hey, what are we hearing at all? Let's just start off right off with Geno Suarez. Obviously, a lot of people out here want to connect the Mariners to Suarez because he played here before. I wonder how much talk is out there about Suarez on the open market. Are the Mariners true? Are they one of the teams being mentioned, or is it just us talking heads saying that? But is there true interest, do you think, for the Mariners to reacquire him?
it's an obvious fit. So that obviously, from when we're talking about it, like you are, and nationally, and we're trying to find fits. Well, we're first trying to decide if Arizona's going to sell, and they haven't made that. And I know the general manager Mike Hazen. He came on my show recently, and he's like, "I'm not wired that way. I have no desire to break down this team. I put this team together. I think it's a championship caliber team. All that's dead. He has had a ton of injuries, including Corbin Carroll, as you know, the latest, and these had their pitching has had a huge downturn. Burns being out, so a lot of people think they're going to be sellers. I'm not quite sure that they're going to be at the moment. I think this is a hard part when you're in the GMC. If you're in the mediocre, with your record, and you're like beyond 5 games back of let's say a wild card, 6, 7, 8. That's like no man's land where you have to plan for both. You got to plan to sell and you have to plan to buy, and you get really stretched thin with your evaluators and all of your kind of number crunchers. And when you're looking at who to trade for and everything else, it's really difficult. So trying to narrow down teams is like the best thing that you could do for both buying and selling. Right now, they're still going to be in a holding pattern. I think they're going to be buyers, but Suarez for Seattle, Suarez for Detroit, Suarez with the Mets.
Yeah.
There's like a ton of teams that need, that Suarez with Houston, because they can move Paredes to second base if they wanted to, because second base has been a problem for them. There's so many teams. The Phillies could use an upgrade, at third, or the outfield. They could take Bowman and DH him. So there's going to be a ton of interest in Suarez. The good news with the Mariners, they still have top prospects that they can get it for. You have to have prospect capital, and they're one team that does.
Yeah, so that was the worry, I think, for me and a lot of other people. If they were to be interested in Suarez, they're just not going to be the only team. It's just not because Arizona's not going to go, well, he played there before, so let's just trade him back there again. So you mentioned a lot of other teams who may just be more aggressive than Seattle at the deadline.
I think that it does come down to aggressiveness, and listen, Jerry Zato has been aggressive in the past, and all of that. But it's gonna take prospect capital, and that's where he's done a lot of kind of the swapping major leaguer for major leaguer. And by the way, there are a lot of teams. I had the general manager for the Milwaukee Brewers on Matt Arnold and Mike Chernoff, who's the GM of the Guardians, both this past Sunday, and they passed on what we've been hearing a lot of, which is there's a lot of major league trades out there. So, there's like not just prospect for, but that's where Jerry is so good and so creative. I've always argued in the Mariners case, instead of upgrading incrementally, right, and hoping that whoever the guy is that you get is better than the one you gave up, why not just add and give up a prospect in your system, which you have plenty of, and have some depth there. So I'm hopeful that's what they're going to end up doing. If they are willing to do that, they would be a front runner, especially the guys at the upper levels, like, Ford and Montez, the guys that are going to the futures game. Those would be guys that they would have to consider you trading at least one of them.
Do you sense him wanting? You know Jerry, you've interviewed him.
Yeah.
His makeup, his personality, because he has traded him already. Would he reacquire him? I guess, would he look at that as, I failed, I shouldn't have traded him before, so I don't want to have egg on my face to go back and deal with him again?
You know what? I think it's a fair question. Usually if it doesn't go well the first time, I always had a philosophy like, what, it didn't work for a reason. Let's not go down that road. It wasn't like, hey, it'll make me look bad because you're looking to upgrade and you're hoping you're going to improve the team, and circumstances change sometimes where players take off and you're like, oh, okay, I have to do a mea culpa. This guy was better than I thought. And you do bring him back, but a lot of times you don't bring those guys back if it didn't end well, because there's, again, if there's something there that, maybe it's the backdrop, maybe it's hitting, we've talked some things that we've talked about or maybe, he was just, a more of a free swinging type of offensive player that has gotten a little bit more selective. And so you have to kind of sort through that a little bit too. I don't think it would be necessarily, a guy that they would go after just because, it was such a high strikeout level the last time.
Well, what was floated out here. I mean, most people, I would say 95%, maybe more of people that are out here. And I probably think in baseball, the only reason they got rid of him was a salary dump. They just wanted to cut payroll. Because
Right.
you look what they got rid of. I mean, they acquired Vargas and a journeyman backup catcher who's no longer with the organization.
Right.
And Vargas now has filled a nice role this year, but he really has just been a mop-up guy. They wanted to get rid of. They didn't want to pay him. It was $11 million, and then I think $15 million. They just didn't want to pay him that money, so they said goodbye, and we'll just wash him. They end up that year that they move him, signing Mitch Garver to a 2-year, $24 million deal, which has been, and I know he's been hitting better of late, but it's been an unmitigated disaster for him. So I think for a lot of people, and we've discussed this before, it's hard at times, this fan base, to take them serious and to hear them talk about reacquiring somebody like Suarez when just, a couple of years ago, and not a couple of years ago, you traded him because you just wanted to get rid of payroll.
Yeah, right. You want to get rid of payroll. I mean, in fairness, he did strike out over 200 times. He was a 200 strikeout guy. He has cut down on his strikeouts since he's gone to Arizona. but that offensive era that they were in, I mean, they were among the leaders in strikeouts, and still, they use that as a reason to do it as well. Salary and high strikeouts. It didn't go better since, obviously, the replacements. Listen, those guys are hard to find. Suarez type players are hard to find. And so when you have them, it's like the Teoscar Hernandez conversation. I mean, that exit didn't go well either, right? And look at what he's done for LA. He's been a huge, not only has he been a huge offensive, jolt for them, but he's a great guy in the clubhouse too. Those are guys that you need, So yeah, they've I feel like misevaluated both of those guys.
Yeah, and you go back also. I was going to finish the point there on Suarez was. The talk then was, and they, I think, were deliberate how they did this. It was, well, he didn't come into camp in the best shape. They weren't pleased with his work ethic. All this stuff after the fact. And it was like, that was the reason. I mean, he produced, and he produced actually at home. Yes, he struck out. But I'm with you, and having coached and you having coached, just being around sports, I think we all understand this. I think you can win if not everybody gets along, but chemistry is such a vital part of sports, and attitude and all of it. And when you've got a team that gets along, likes each other, has a good vibes, right? Good vibes only. That was his thing. The teams and players play better. They just do. And to get rid of that is still to this day one of the most mind-boggling decisions that this organization has ever made.
I would say a fair criticism of them. We criticize owners a lot, but a fair criticism of the front office on occasion is they have not, in my opinion, necessarily put a premium on clubhouse chemistry. When they traded, was it Graveman, if you remember, the response in that clubhouse, and the fact that they missed out by a game or two, but the week after he was traded, I mean, it was almost a clubhouse revolt, right? And so, like, you think about those aspects, Suarez, great. He's been a really good clubhouse guy in Arizona. Teoscar Hernandez has been fantastic with the Dodgers. Those guys, while they're not necessarily, 3 or 4 hole hitters, I mean, they're, Teoscar has actually been occasionally cleanup hitter, occasional 6-hole hitter. Suarez, in that range when he's hot, you can put him in the 5 spot. So, like, but they haven't put a lot of premium on those good clubhouse guys. And when things go sour is when you need those leaders. You know what I mean? And so that's, in my experience and just watching other teams who have good clubhouse chemistry, they have these team meetings and they work through some of the issues of the length of the season, and then they get back on track.
I just think I think that the price tag on, and Service would talk about, I'm sure you interviewed Service about Suarez.
Yeah.
What he would bring to the team on a daily basis coming in there if they were in midst of a 3-game losing streak. his attitude never changed.
Right.
And guys, I mean, listen, I've watched it for months with kids playing baseball. You feed off of whether someone has got a great attitude, and if someone has a bad attitude, that just permeates, and it can ruin team chemistry. And I think but the flip side of it is that I think someone, when it's authentic, I mean, you can be like rah guy, but it's not authentic. But for Suarez, it is, because that's just what his personality was, and he was just great at it. It just made people, in a sport that is so long and difficult, he made it fun and relaxed.
Right. You think about going to any job, and it can be a grind every single day. But that guy who you look forward to hanging out with and has that energy, like on a daily basis, that is important. I think that with some of these guys who do a lot of statistical measurements with their own evaluations, they can't measure a guy's heartbeat. They can't measure the guy's personality in the clubhouse, and that gets overlooked. You know who does a really good job of scouting makeup are the Milwaukee Brewers. And you know what? Year in, year out, with a lesser payroll, they're winning or one of the best teams in the division. And a lot of it has to do with the makeup that they have with their players, mostly the homegrown guys, but guys that they acquired. They spend a lot of time in that area, and you can tell some of the ones that don't.
I think it's a big deal in all sports, not just baseball. I think in any sport, just to have chemistry, guys that want to be great, guys who just will leave it all out there on the field, court, whatever. Cal Raleigh, again, 33rd home run. He's going to hit one more. It's going to tie his career high, and he may do it. He may surpass it before the All-Star break. As we get to the All-Star break, and as we get into the second half of the season, what can this organization do and help him out to kind of take a little bit of some pressure or some load off of him as the season continues to go? Because obviously he plays one of the most, if not the most demanding position in the sport.
Yeah. I mean, a lot of this is giving him, let's say half a day off, get him off his feet, get him out of the gear and have him DH. I think that to me is a big part of that. And, whether it's Garver or whether you could bring up, this is a spot to bring up Ford, who's having a really good season in the minor leagues. Like you asked me a couple of weeks ago, is there a spot where you could see both of those guys? Yeah, absolutely. There's some teams out there that have really good two-man catching crew. You can ease Ford into the major leagues. Being careful with him and not getting him too exposed to really good pitching, and give the Raleigh the DH role for a couple of days. Yeah, it cuts into Garver's at bats. But does anybody really care? And I mean, no offense to Mitch, he's been a good pro, but he hasn't produced, right? I mean,
Sure.
It's terrible, but and you could carry a third catcher like that too, but as long as Ford was catching a lot, you could go that route. So that would be my suggestion overall. And I think that, that's the primary way. Let's put it that way.
Who is Jim? Is there someone right now, as we sit here July 1st, and we still got a month away? Is there a player that's garnering the most attention right now on the open market? And not open market, but to the trade deadline.
Yeah, Sandy Alcantara is the guy, the starting pitcher for the Marlins. He's getting the most play, most attention, primarily because he's a top of the rotation starter. Everyone needs pitching. He's the one guy of all of them out there. Position player wise, is still in a holding pattern with Arizona, as you kind of alluded to and talked about, because they have a number of guys that are potentially free agents that would, and same thing with the Baltimore Orioles. Like everyone's kind of waiting for the Orioles to kind of come to to their decision on whether they're going to be sellers too. I think those are the two teams, but Alcantara is the one who gets the most attention right now.
The Orioles' biggest disappointment this season of baseball?
By far, I think the second team is are the Braves, and probably the third team would be Arizona to this point. Those are the three that stand out. The Orioles, and they've had a lot of injury, but they didn't put a lot of attention on their starting pitching. And I think that's the big, the big problem here, because I live in Maryland. With watching their general manager, he's taking a lot of heat, and he said they're going to stay in this thing. They're only 7 back or so of the wild card, 6 back, somewhere in that range. So it's not that, even though they're well below 500. So that's the mediocrity that you have with the third wild card. But in the end, I don't think they have enough pitching to get out of this.
Hey, Jim, if hell freezes over and somehow that Canada is able to get Kirk more votes than Raleigh, can baseball step in and be like, no, he's not starting? Can Manfred's just be like, no, we're not letting him start over the second biggest story in baseball from an individual standpoint that we have in the sport?
I would like to think that he would. He never has in the past. I gotta believe though that it doesn't happen that way. That he's the one who gets the nod.
Okay.
And
maybe
I'm going to believe
Chad.
in the faith, not just Mariners fans, but the baseball fans in general, that they're going to do the right thing and invite. Even though you're battling the whole
You're
country,
battling
Canada.
a country, for crying out loud. It's not just like another state; it's an entire country. Well, yeah, maybe there'd be some voter fraud, and I'm all up. I'm all up for voter fraud. There's just
Why
no
not?
way.
Why not?
God, if that were to happen, it would just be the
It would
worst
be the absolute
thing
worst
in the world.
I cannot imagine, Puck. I really can't. Usually the fans get it right. They really do.
Okay.
In the end,
they better get it right.
They better.
Speaking of Manfred, there was a story written in The Athletic about this. I'm not sure if you guys discussed it at all, but we're getting closer to their collective bargaining agreement being over. I think it's December of 2026 when it ends. What's the future of baseball? Do we anticipate it? Feels like some of the industry feel like there will be another work stoppage, another lockout there from owners.
They used that as a strategy the last time. They thought it was effective. They played to there's 64% of the league are 3 years of service time or less. Right. That's a lot, that are non-arbitration eligible. That's a lot of the league. And they played their final offers to that group, and they got them when they went to the player reps of all 30 teams, 26 out of 30 agreed to the deal, when the executive committee, which is made up mostly of high-priced free agents, the higher salary guys, they rejected it. So I think in that article you're referencing, the strategy is a good one, that the commissioners kind of go into the the lessers, or we'll call them the have-nots, just by comparison. The thing I hated about it was, why would you ever discuss your strategy out in public? I mean, you want to talk about a rallying point for the players. Listening to that was it was almost like he was pulling his rotator cuff by patting himself on the back for what he's done so far. Like that doesn't work. And yes, he's taking advantage of some unrest within the Players Association. But if there was going to be a galvanizing point, I would pull this article up if I were Tony Clark and just show it to the players, say, hey, these guys are trying to take advantage of us. Don't let them do it.
Do you think, does he want a salary cap?
The owners want a salary cap. They have come out, numerous owners have come out and said that. Even the Yankees owner, Hal Steinbrenner, has said it, of all the people, because they're looking at the Mets, Steve Cohen, they're looking at the Dodgers, all the money that they spend, and they're saying, well, we can't compete with them. They can, but they don't want to. But I think they also point to the valuations of their own franchises, and they think, because like in the other sports, when you have a salary cap, you control expenses, you control what you're paying the players. The valuations go up, and they have kind of lagged. Some of the mid-market smaller ones have lagged behind, let's say, by comparison to some of the ones in the NBA. That's their argument. And in the NFL, I think they're just completely different products. It's hard to compare them, but that's what the owners point to.
If they did a salary cap, would that then change how players early on in their service time, would they get paid earlier? Would that go away? Similar to what you see in the NBA and the NFL, where you can get paid faster and more money?
I think you would see a change in that area. There would have to be some trade-offs. One of the other things that stood out to me was, when I was in the front office, 63% of the monies that went to the players, and 37% of the revenues went to the owners. I mean, I remember getting lectured by the commissioner at the time, Commissioner Seelig, and the people that worked for him, about, why you guys are letting this happen. It was the owners that were letting it happen, but the GMs were there having to listen to this, and assistant GMs. I was an assistant at the time. Well, that revenue sharing has shifted, It's now, I think the players get 47% of the pie. So the majority of the money goes to the owners. And Manfred said, in the article, he said, if the players had just accepted a deal 50-50 split way back then, 30 years ago, they would have gotten $2 billion more in their coffers. Now, I think there's some fuzzy math there, but let's just take conservatively, it was $1 billion, somewhere in that range. That's a lot of money that they would have had if they had welcomed some kind of salary cap. So there would be some changes in the way young players are paid. I think there has to be anyway, because they're producing at a high level and they're not getting paid commensurately.
Because you look at it, somebody like Cal Raleigh this year, who finally got paid, but the first few years that he's in the majors, that you're making 700. Again, it's all relative. For us, this is a lot of money. For them, it's not. Yeah. You're making $750,000. I mean, and then in a $1 billion industry. And so I would just think that for a salary cap that the players would trade off if they could get paid earlier, not have this service time and this or these owners. I mean, they just control them. And you just don't get paid until you're 30. Just doesn't seem fair. I've never thought it's been fair in baseball. Hey, a couple more things, and I'll let you go. I know you got to go. Dave Parker. Again, he's before my time. I'll tell you my memory or my image of Dave Parker is this, and probably everyone that's in my wheelhouse, 48-ish, 49, is him sitting on the bench in that fabulous Pirates uniform with a heater in his mouth. That great picture, that and he's just puffing on a cigarette with that great uniform. And I'm thinking, that's a baseball player right there.
That is so good. He was one of those, impactful players. Like, he reminds me a little bit of Yordan Alvarez now, but he actually was a good defender. Alvarez was below average, but just in terms of the impact that he has offensively, the Cobra was his nickname. He had that coil in his swing, and with the bat and his load, and he was a above average defensive player too. All-star, led the league. This is a guy 6'6", so this is pre-Judge now, Aaron Judge. 6'6", left-handed hitter, 245, 50 pounds, and he led the league in hitting twice, was an MVP. Like, the shame of this is he should have gotten the Hall of Fame nod way before this year, when he was dealing with Parkinson's. And the unfortunate, at least he passed away knowing he was in, but he missed the ceremony. And that's the thing that frustrates me about the Hall sometimes.
Yeah, I just love that picture of him. It's always kind of seared into my brain. Last but not least, happy Bobby Bonilla Day. I can't believe this is still going on. He gets paid for another 10 years, almost $1.2 million every year.
Incredible. It's really, we should rename it Deferred Compensation Day, because Max Scherzer got a check for $15 million today. Chris Davis deferred comp has like $5 million. Like, anybody who has any type of deferred comp, Bruce Sutter, if you go back and look at his contract back in the day, he had the biggest deferments that I can remember. He had deferred comp before Bobby Bonilla, but I've told you that story, right? $5.9 million. We had him as a Mets, and our accounting department, our ownership said, hey, we can take the money we owe him and put it in an investment vehicle and earn 15% guaranteed every single year. We'll make money on this investment. And they gave it to Bernie Madoff of the Ponzi scheme. Bernie Madoff, Puck.
Oh, Bernie, Team Madoff, Betty. Team Madoff. I love it. That's a great story. All right. Have a wonderful 4th. Celebrate. Hey, have a wonderful party with the kids tonight. Thanks. Don't be too hard on them, what they need to work on for next year. All right.
All constructive. Constructive.
Do you sit down with the parents too? To Tom and Betsy and be like, hey, Tom, maybe this year we don't yell the whole game.
Tom, Betsy, the reason we treated every player fairly, but playing time was not equal.
It was not equal. And little Billy needs to understand that he just can't play pitcher all the time.
And isn't that a life lesson worth learning?
Yeah, isn't it? How many times this year were you asked, "Hey, can I pitch?"
Oh my goodness. From one kid or everybody? One
Just
kid asked me twice a day, twice a practice, twice a game. I'm like,
Can I
listen,
pitch? When am I going to pitch?
son, you guys go over there and sit down. When I need you to pitch, I'll come and ask you.
Oh, all right. Happy 4th. We'll see you next week. Thanks,
Happy
Jim.
4th. See you, Buck. Bye.
There he is, Jim Duquette, with us every single Tuesday. MLB Network Radio, Sirius XM, Channel 89. Follow him on social media, Jim Duquette GM. If you came into it late, it will all be podcast. The video up on YouTube with the Daily Puck Drop. Also on Apple, Spotify, and whatever podcast platform you like to use. All right, finally, the Bobcats of Texas State. Well, let's see. It was about 15 years ago that they thought they were going to get the Texas Longhorns. In fact, they had the Longhorns, but they just wouldn't let them have their network. So the Pac-10 at that time missed out on Texas and Oklahoma. And instead, they got Texas State yesterday. I would say a fair trade-off. Ladies and gentlemen, to help us break it all down is John Canzano from johncanzano.com. The Bald-Faced Truth radio show down there in Portland, Oregon, 7:50 the game, 3 to 6 p.m. daily. And he joins us every single Tuesday to talk all things sports and college athletics and the latest drama with the Pac-12. Huh? Fair trade, Longhorns for the Bobcats?
Yeah,
or the Bobcats
I mean, I think you have to look.
Huh?
You have to look at perspective, don't you? I mean, but I think you framed it nicely, saying you could have had Texas. You might have dreamed about Texas A&M. You got Texas State, but hey, look.
God.
Think about where Oregon State and Washington State were 2 years ago today. 2 years ago today, they were in a panic.
Yeah.
2 years ago, a year ago today, they were going, hey, it's a table for two. I was looking back at the stuff I wrote just a year ago. Like they were going to play as a conference of two, and everyone said, oh, they're just going to merge with the Mountain West. It's been, I think a little bit of a rocky takeoff. And then now I think they know that they've got a conference and they've got some viability. Let's see what they can do with it. And, they're punching from the outside in, Puck. Everybody knows it. It's not the Pac-12 as we once knew it. But, Bill Walton, what would he have thought of Texas State in the Pac-12?
Well, I did read where someone asked you that in your mailbag this week. I think he'd be rolling over, but, or maybe not. Maybe he'd be celebrating.
Well, he
Texas
didn't like
State.
it. He didn't like it when UCLA and USC left. He particularly was mad at UCLA. And I remember he came, he didn't have to do this, but he wrote that open letter to UCLA and to the world. And he called me and he said, hey, can I publish it on your website? And I was like, he could have called ESPN. He could have called anybody. But he came to me and he said, hey, I want you to publish this thing. He knew what he was doing. He was helping me out. He was speaking directly to Pac-12 fans. And he wasn't happy about it. And I think someday, we're going to see football split away. And I think the conference may realign and come back together in some form or fashion. But look, Washington State and Oregon State have to be thrilled about where they are. I know they're happy. I know they feel like it's been a hell of a journey. But now at least they know they're going to be recognized as a conference by the NCAA.
What is it? The devil's in the details. The details in the devil. What is the phrase?
You want to know the distribution. You want to know half a bowl of soup.
Well, I want to know. I mean, are they coming in full freight here, or what's the deal?
No, they're not coming in full freight. And the Pac-12 presidents were dug in pretty hard in the last 2 weeks, saying that they did not believe that Texas State merited a full share distribution of media rights. And so the models that they were looking at in the days before the deal got done, and we'll eventually know the details of the deals, but the models they were looking at, Puck, were partial share distributions in the early years, escalating towards a full share in year 5. And so I think that you'll see that escalation. And frankly, for Texas State, they were getting a small distribution in the Sun Belt Conference. They're going to be happy with what they're getting in the Pac-12. So, the early years of that Pac-12 deal, I would not expect it to be much more than what Texas State was getting in the Sun Belt. So I think you could see a 25% or a 50% share in year 1. That helps everybody else. It helps, raise the distributions for all the other members. And eventually Texas State becomes in year 5 a full member. So, Kelly Damphus, the president at Texas State, I have plans to talk to him later this week. I've texted with him a little bit. He's really excited about it. They believe that they can matter in this conference, and they believe they can use the Pac-12 the same way that Boise State used the Mountain West, and take advantage of the fact that they've got some footing now and some traction in a better conference.
What is the Pac-12? What is Oregon State, Washington State getting with Texas State athletics?
Well, I think they're getting a bigger distribution because they're going to come in at a smaller scale. They're getting a toe into Texas where they can now go in and recruit. And I talked to Greg Biggins, who's a national recruiting analyst for 24/7 Sports, and I said, hey, playing a game in San Marcos, Texas, or is that going to really help you recruit the state of Texas? And he said, look, you're not going to grab recruits that were headed to Texas or Texas A&M, but you can start talking to recruits that, were headed in that second and third tier, some recruits that maybe headed to TCU, Baylor, Houston, places like that. You can now start to say, hey, can we pick off a couple of guys and can we get some players in Texas? Because parents love to hear, hey, every other year, we're going to play a game there. You get a chance to see your kid play. They love to hear that kind of stuff. So I do think it gets a toe into Texas, helps a little bit. I think ideally they would have loved to have the geography of UNLV, but UNLV just was acting squirrely, acting like it was above the Pac-12, had a chance to come in. I think it caused some bad feelings with some of the departing Mountain West schools that thought like, hey, you think you're above us, but UNLV just didn't have an appetite for any risk right now. And that may change at some point, and UNLV could come in if the Mountain West can't come up with the money that they're supposed to give them. But I think right now the Pac-12 is feeling pretty good. And then the term I keep hearing from Pac-12 ADs is, they're going to look at additive value when it comes to adding football only schools or adding all sports schools. Mm-hmm. So, I think they're first going to focus on, is there a football only edition? Somebody like UTSA that helps a little bit with balancing the schedule. Is there an appetite from Memphis to send football to the Pac-12? I think in the coming days and weeks, we'll find out more about that. And then St. Mary's certainly sitting off to the side going, this is a great development for St. Mary's. Roger Thompson, the president of St. Mary's, I think they were fearful that if the Pac-12 took two schools, there would be no appetite for an additional basketball school. But because they only took one, Puck, St. Mary's is sitting off to the side as the clear best of the rest in the West school in basketball that could come in basketball and potentially come in baseball and help you round out the scheduling. You want to be a 10-team conference in basketball. So I think St. Mary's is feeling a little bit optimistic right now, looking over at the Pac-12.
It's a program that has back-to-back 8-5 seasons. What type of a football program is this conference getting? And what is the commitment from this athletic department when it comes to football? We know how crazy the state of Texas is about football. What about this athletic department? What do we know about it? What do we know of their commitment level of making this the best program they can possibly have? And so this conference isn't just taking on, like in college year fraternity, like a body pledge just to get numbers.
Yeah, look, I think there's a couple things. One, Texas State's operating in the shadow of Texas, Texas Tech, Texas A&M, TCU, Baylor, Houston. It's operating in that shadow. It's got that chip on the shoulder that Washington State and Oregon State have for obvious reasons, right? So there's a little bit of that. Like, they really want to matter. There's a little Boise State in them. Like, they really want to matter. There's ambition there. They're not afraid to take risk. It's an interesting thing. There's some math here that I think is interesting for Pac-12 fans. 40,000 students on campus at Texas State. They are big on student fees for athletics. And so they have really tapped into that. So I do think you're going to see spending from Texas State. I think you're going to see their budget increase. I think you're going to see them go for it from a football standpoint. And I think, yesterday they had a big event on campus. They're sort of drafting on the enthusiasm of it. Certainly they're probably reaching out to their donors, but they're a little edgy as a school. And I like that about them, that they're a little edgy and a little ambitious. And so I think they're trying to grow. They're trying to matter. I don't think they're going to be a bottom feeder in this conference. I think people want to look at the last 10 or 15 or 20 years and go, gosh, they haven't really won. And they haven't. They've been terrible if you look at like a 20-year sample size. But if you look at the last 2 years, we know how much has changed in college football. And in the last 2 years, this program is 8-5 and 8-5. And they played Arizona State 31-28 last season. And so I think they really want to matter. I think they're going to attract a higher caliber recruit in the Pac-12 than they did in the Sun Belt. I don't think they're going to be a bottom half of the conference program. I think they'll be top half of the conference. And I think the rest of the conference better pay attention to this because, you've got a school that's anchored in Texas now that's going to have better access to those athletes in Texas. You better come to play if you're Oregon State and Washington State. I think it's a bit of a wake-up call, particularly for Washington State, because I think Oregon State's already proven they're going to spend.
What I lost my train of thought. I was just going to ask a follow-up with Texas State. Now I just blanked on it. Gosh darn it. St. Mary's, you brought him up. Yeah. I'll just pivot to St. Mary's. What's the latest on them, and how quickly do you think? I mean, sounds like if Pac-12 said, yeah, hey, we'd like you to come out as a basketball only, they would jump right away. What's the hesitation?
Well, I think the Pac-12 has told St. Mary's all along, we're focused on football. We're focused on media rights. Then we'll pivot to basketball. And it's just the order of operations because, 80 cents on the dollar of your media rights money is tied to football. But the Pac-12 has got this great basketball conference, and you look at NCAA tournament appearances, you look at the net rankings, it's the fourth or fifth best conference in the country in a given year. It's got two teams in Gonzaga and San Diego State that in the last 5 years that played in the national championship game. And so you have some really good basketball programs. And then St. Mary's, which is, the second rated, program on the western part of the United States, right behind Gonzaga. St. Mary's is the next best program in the West. And so I think you have to look at, St. Mary's is the obvious addition, but Roger Thompson, the president there, he's doing all the right things. They are looking at expanding their home arena, which was a big question. Their arena is subpar compared to the Pac-12 schools. And, he has been told, hang on, we'll get back to you. And I think they've been very patient. They're not pushing the Pac-12 to try to get, an answer now. And I did talk to Stu Jackson, the WCC commissioner, yesterday, and he says, hey, I believe that St. Mary's is better off in the WCC, but that's what he's got to say. But I think the Pac-12, if they don't add a 9th or, a 10th all-sports member, I think there's a real chance that St. Mary's or somebody else comes in and plays basketball. Now, if I'm the Pac-12, I would also want St. Mary's in baseball. I would love them in baseball and women's basketball as well. You could really round out your scheduling and your conference. And from a baseball standpoint, Texas State brings something. They beat Texas in baseball earlier this season. I think you add Oregon State, Texas State, St. Mary's, San Diego State. I think you've got Fresno State. You got a decent baseball conference.
UNLV and Memphis. They have to still be out there, right?
Yeah.
It's still an option. How quickly could that still be an option for this?
Well, the mediation for the Pac-12 and the Mountain West, the window for mediation closes July 15th. It's been very quiet, and I've talked to a multitude of litigators who tell me that they believe, a deadline like that, you'd have to go back and ask the judge for another stay. So a deadline like that tends to cause meetings and cause decisions. It could be that a number of complex things have already been decided and they're just trying to hash out one or two things and we get a resolution here. But if the money's not there, if Gloria Nevarez in the Mountain West can't land the plane on the money and the financial promise to UNLV, then UNLV, I think, suddenly becomes a viable option for the Pac-12. And I think the Pac-12 will run out that ground ball just to make sure UNLV is not interested. Because if you can add UNLV, now you're at, 10 members for all sports and 9 in football, you're probably feeling a lot better. The math on the Memphis part is tricky because they're getting a larger than normal distribution in the American. They would have to send all their other sports to the Big East and then, peel off football. But the selling point that you make to Memphis, if you're the Pac-12, is, hey, we're number 5. We are the 5th best conference. Our conference champion is going to get that group of 5 berth in most years. Memphis could go 11-1 in the American and not get to the playoff. And that's the pitch you're making if you're the Pac-12. If you want access to the playoff, this is the better path. This positions you for whatever comes next. The Pac-12 now is this conference, that's got this 5-year runway. And, I keep thinking, George Strait, who's, by the way, a Texas State alum, he had a great line. He said, I'm not here for a long time. I'm just here for a good time. That's the Pac-12 motto, baby. Like, it's 5 years and let's see what happens.
When are you going to Texas State? When are we going to San Marcos?
The way, for people who want to ingratiate themselves to Texas State fans, I pronounced it San Marcos the first time I saw it.
What is
San
it?
Marcos State. San Marcos is how they pronounce it.
San Marcos.
So I reached out to Texas State today. I said, hey, I need to get there. Where am I flying? And they said, fly into Austin, drive. It's like 25, 30 miles outside of Austin.
Okay.
And so not tough to get to, but they're on my list of, I'm going to all the New World Pac-12 schools.
Yeah.
I'm eager to see what they're about and how enthusiastic their students are. They have a reputation of being a party school.
Well,
the students, perfect. when they graduate, Puck, they jump in the river in their cap and gown. The river runs right through campus. And so it's a tradition for them to dive into the river and with their cap and gown on after graduation. So it's my kind of place.
Yeah, you're in. I want you to. So when you go there, I say you go in August, like when it's nice and cool.
Nice and cool, and then go there. Tube. I'm going to go tubing down the San Marcos River. Come on.
Can you? Is it okay? Is the river?
They tube in that river. Yeah,
okay.
Yeah, 100%.
Right. Just making sure. Yeah. Well, that's right. Can you tube right to the stadium?
I don't know if you can tube to the stadium.
Now
but
that would be epic. Now I'm going to tell you, you can sailgate right to UW. I think Tennessee. Yeah. There's the river takes you right to the game. If you could jump in an inner tube at San Marcos, and tube to the game with like a cooler of beer.
That would be really cool, though. But
awesome.
I did have some Texas State fans reach out to me right away, right after it was official yesterday, and they said, and by the way, you were all over this. We've been talking about this, happening and what day it would happen, and you were all over this. But the fans said, "Hey, you think Reser Stadium is a tough place to play, or you think that it's tough to go to the blue turf in Boise? Wait till you get to San Marcos. They believe they have the most festive live game, atmosphere in the New World Pac-12. We'll see."
Okay. Well, I'm excited to go.
Yeah. For people who are upset about this, like I'm still hearing from people who are like, well, it's not the Pac-12. It's not the Pac-12. These schools are all gone. But think about where they started, Puck. Washington State and Oregon State were left for dead on the side of the road. Now they have the best schools, Gonzaga, Boise State, San Diego State. They have the best schools they could possibly get around them in the conference, and they're trying to punch back. There's something inspiring in there.
Yeah. I mean, it's never going to be the same, but we all have to get over it.
Yeah.
You have to get over it, and I'll get over it eventually. But I'll be honest with you, it doesn't matter where this goes and what it turns into. It will never be what I grew up with. That's out. And so it's there's just part of me. It's going to take it's another. Think about this. I've built up 50. Once I start watching 40 years of watching one particular conference.
Yeah.
Rooting against people, rooting for them, and all that. I'm not going to be, if I'm around another 40 years, that's going to be remarkable.
And I think it's going to change again in 5 years. And maybe it helps a little bit. I think in the next 5 years, starting in 2026, I believe the Pac-12 champion's going to get into the playoff.
Okay.
And so maybe the calculus changes, or the attitude or the framing of this changes when you see Washington State or Oregon State win the Pac-12 in one of these 5 years, and they're in the playoff. And granted, when they get there, they're operating with a budget that is fractional compared to the Big Ten and the SEC schools. They may get their teeth kicked in, but let's see how that feels for those fan bases when they get there.
I was looking at their stadium. It's a cool looking stadium. It basically looks just like Martin Stadium.
Yeah.
It's pretty much like a carbon copy of Martin Stadium. Same size, almost same size, everything.
Yeah. And the university president there, I love that president. He is he's not a normal president. He paints outside the boxes. He's not the traditional academic. He's not stuffy. He's pushing the envelope a little bit. And I think the balance that he's trying to strike is he's pushing for R1 research status. The PhD programs at Texas State have been boosted in his time. And then he's pushing growth in athletics. And so if you want to matter in athletics, you got to matter in football. So I think Texas State is hoping that the Pac-12 can be that springboard for them to matter and register nationally. And that would be great for the Pac-12 if they're trying to punch above their weight.
Okay. What do you got cooking? What's the latest at johncanzano.com? What do we got coming down the pipeline?
Well, look, I've got all what happens next in the Pac-12, including with mediation, my thoughts on mediation, where they're going to go in expansion, the basketball piece, the branding that they're trying to quietly push, which is they're trying to push that, hey, we're the 5th best conference. That I think the Pac-12 is going to make a push to try to say, hey, it's Power 5. It's still got to be Power 5. How can you hold us accountable and have us paying damages on the House settlement and then not give us a seat at the table? I think there's an argument to be made there, but all of the what comes next is up there right now if people want to check it out. And then, Puck, I got a chance to talk to a 97-year-old Pac-12 fan, Oregon State fan, yesterday, 2 days ago on the phone. She lives in Corvallis. She died last night. She knew she was dying. She wanted to talk to me about what it was like to be a season ticket holder for 70 years at Oregon State. She was a ticket holder all the way to the end. And she knew she was dying and said, hey, can I tell you a few things? I'm going to write that column later this week. It's one of those human interest stories that you love so much.
Yeah, I love all of that stuff.
Yeah.
I mean, I eat it all up.
I mean, somebody think about it. You're on your deathbed. You're 97, and you just have such perspective. Her perspective was, amazing, remarkable to me. And she was like, I don't really know why you'd want to talk to me, she says, but I said, yeah, you're 97. You have some things to teach.
How were you alerted to that?
Her son reached out to me and said, hey, my mom is in her final days. Nobody's ever written anything about her, said anything about her. She has been there in the front row at Oregon State football and baseball and basketball for 70 years. Nobody knows who she is. She's just been there. And he's like, if you want to talk to her, I think she's got 2 or 3 days to live. He reached out to me over the weekend. And so I got on the phone with her, and man, she brain sharp, had a great conversation with her, and then called her back the next day. And then I got word last night that she passed away yesterday at 4:30.
And we look forward to that. That's coming out later this week?
Yeah, later this week. Yep.
Today, one thing I wanted to bring up, today is the first day of the college sports revenue sharing. What do you think this is going to look like? How big of a blank show is this going to be?
It's going to be bad, and there's going to be lawsuits, and then it's being celebrated by like the mid-major schools, the smaller schools, the group of 5 schools. They're celebrating it because they're saying, look, before there was no ceiling, there was no cap. We didn't know, we're trying to reach, and we don't know how far we have to reach. Now at least we know how far we need to reach. But I also think it's going to settle down some of the NIL deals and settle down some of the spending. And we've seen it get off the rails. And I kind of think that, the players like John Mateer, who jumped and took all that money, and other players who have jumped around, are going to look back and go, hey, we got out right at the right time, because the revenue sharing really is capping what the schools can give, and the NIL deals are supposed to be real deals here moving forward. They can't, be these phantom deals. And then, I had a tax guy who's a sports tax guy who's really tuned into this too. There's a tax element to this. They're not going to get W-2s. They're going to get 1099s. And so, this is taxable income. How will that impact how, will the IRS adjust and say, no, these need to be employees. They need to pay, when a high profile player plays a game in Pullman, are they going to be paying a jock tax locally and to the state? Are they paying that in Oregon? Are they going to be paying that, as they go around the country? Or is it only going to be that their income is taxable in their home state, like endorsement income is? So there's a lot of tentacles to this that people haven't thought about. And I think it's going to be messy.
Yeah. How are schools preparing for it? I mean, I know they have been preparing for it. I'm sure you've talked to Oregon State. What's the number one thing that they've had to, that has been, I guess, difficult to deal with?
I think, they had 44 scholarship baseball players, and they had to go, okay, we're only going to have 34 scholarships. So there were 10 players at Oregon State, and everybody's like, why are so many Oregon State players getting in the portal? Well, it's because these are backup guys that were told, we don't have a scholarship for you next year. And so you're seeing that in non-revenue generating sports across the spectrum. And you're seeing small moves, like the volleyball coaches at the University of Oregon left Oregon for Kansas. All the players left for Kansas, right? Why? Well, because Oregon is informing their women's volleyball program. They're going, hey, we don't have we're not going to tier you as a top sport like football or basketball. Here's where you are in our tiering. So this has all been going on over the last 6 months. I think these schools nationally have said, track and field doesn't matter as much to us at Washington State. We're getting rid of all the throwing events, and we're going to keep the program. We don't want to drop the program, but this is how we avoid dropping the program. So you're having a lot of those decisions being made. Rowing at Washington, we talked about this. If you want to fund those scholarships, not going to come from the school. You're going to have to get donors who come out and basically say, "Hey, I want to create a scholarship for a rower." And so you're going to have that happen, I think, a lot more than before. And I think you're going to see some national champions in some non-revenue generating sports that are not traditional, because some of the big schools are going to go, hey, 80% of our revenue sharing is going to football. I'm hearing 75 to 80% at most schools going to football.
How can somewhere like Kansas be more committed than Oregon? Because
they're just saying we've got a little bit more money. We've got more money. We're going to share a little more, and volleyball matters more to us. And Oregon's going, football matters, men's basketball matters, everything else down here.
Okay.
And I think you're going to see some weird things like Oregon track and field. I need a bigger sample size, but they did not have a good outdoor track and field season. They did not fare well at the NCAA championships hosted at their own track. And I'm wondering if Oregon is going to be able to be a track and field power because so much of their resources now are allocated to football.
Yes or no to this question, and I'm going to answer yes before I ask you the question.
Okay.
Every time I walk around and I see some little kid out there with a lemonade stand in the summer, I always stop, even if I don't want lemonade. I do it every time because I love the lemonade stand. John, you?
Yes, I'm a yes. My only no would be like, if they don't have, I don't want to stop if I don't have cash on me or they don't have Venmo. I mean, it's going to be just an awkward, I'll be back some other time, Sure. But I love that. I love an young entrepreneur out there, mom probably sitting in her car down the street or whatever,
I did encounter one the other day that had a QR code, and that was the first time.
That works.
I was like, oh, okay. Yeah. Well, that's what we'll do it. Here's the phone. Boom. There you go.
What are you paying for a glass of lemonade though? Let's just,
I'll
pay
$5.
You're a tipper?
$5. Yeah.
Do they yell tipper when you walk away?
No, but I'll just give whatever you want. Even if it's a small little Dixie cup, I'll just give it whatever you want.
I
love the lemonade.
You're out there you're just giving them, you're trying to encourage kids. That's not a bad thing.
And when I retire from this, I am going to buy one of those ice cream trucks.
Ooh.
With the song.
You're going to be that guy.
Yeah. Is that Creeper? Is that kind of like van without a window guy?
No, but I've never aspired to be that guy.
Hey, I'm just saying when there's nothing to do, you got to do something fun. That's kind of fun driving around.
It is kind of fun. And you can park anywhere you want. You can double park. Nobody's going to care. You put the music on.
It's
Who
like
cares?
Pavlov. It's like a dog. When you hear that, you're like, you immediately stop. You're like, oh, man.
I always thought that would be great. Like you could park anywhere you want. It's almost like having a police vehicle,
Yeah. You can do whatever you want.
The rules don't apply. You got ice cream sandwiches.
I asked the guy, I saw a guy one time a few weeks ago. I said, how much would it be for, how many people would you need? I just rented you to come out I wanted him to come out to baseball practice. He was like, I need at least 700 people. I'm like, excuse me? There's 12. Is that going to work?
12 is not going to get it done.
No, not going to be done. All right. I've taken up too much of your time. Thank you. Enjoy the 4th, and we'll talk to you next week. Thanks, John.
All right, buddy. Thank you.
There he is, John Canzano, johncanzano.com. Read all of his work there, covering all things Pac-12, human interest, columns, you name it. He has it covered at johncanzano.com. Bald-Faced Truth is the radio show down there in Portland, Oregon from 3 to 6 o'clock. Every single day, that guy is killing it. All right. Okay. Thank you to John. Ladies with Texas State. San Marcos, not San Marcos. San Marcos, Texas. There for the one and only Texas State Bobcats. We salute you, Bobcats. Again, don't take it personal that I'm lukewarm on you. It has nothing to do with your fine university and your fine mascot, the Bobcats. And I've heard wonderful reports from San Marcos, Texas, that it's a wonderful school. I like to hear that it's a party school. I like to hear that you jump in the river after graduation. I think there's great things to come there with Texas State, but it's just, well, Pac-12 guy, Pac-10, not even Pac-12, Pac-10 guy. So I love that deeply, deeply. I'm telling you, when I hear that ice cream truck, all in. I can't wait. Can't stop. I mean, and then the adventure to chase it down. Where is it? Where's that sound coming from? Is it down that street? Is it down the other street? Speaking of random things, this week's Sports Pit is out, by the way. We played a little snippet of it yesterday during the show, but the full hour-long Sports Pit is out. We record it every week. Usually comes out Monday morning, sometimes Monday night, with myself and former KJR alum Steve Sandmeyer and Matt Stretch Johnson. Of course, they were part of the world-renowned morning show with one Mitchell Reed Levy. The whole show is up. If you'd like to watch the whole show, watch it, listen to it all, go to pucksports.com, sign up to become a Pucks Posse member. And one of the funny tidbits in the show this week, and he sent me a video of him doing it today, as that myself and Steve Sandmeyer have challenged Stretch to a challenge to break Joe DiMaggio's hit record of 56 straight games. Now, not obviously he's going to hit because he doesn't play baseball. But Stretch has not an obsession, but he has an unlimited Brown Bear car wash subscription.
Twice a day.
No,
how about twice a day for 5 days?
How about every day for a month? Every day.
Yeah.
Every single.
Go like on a Joe DiMaggio hitting streak.
Yep. Thinking Maryland's on the back end of that car wash.
And then when you get to 56, Steve, that you drive through a big 56 banner, Steve, like DiMaggio steps through.
I get a ring.
No, do DiMaggio. Do 56.
56
in a row?
Come on, dude.
I got to do 57 then.
Right? Okay, yeah.
57 days.
Or do we not want to break DiMaggio's record? Maybe just 56. And then
No. Records are meant to be broken.
Okay.
Yeah.
57.
Yeah. Well, why don't we do Pete Rose's hit record? I'll just go 4,000 days in a row.
Sure. 4192, right?
Yeah. Ripken. Let's just come up with something and I'll do it.
Nolan Ryan strikeouts, 5784.
And I just want.
So Stretch had admitted to us, we somehow in the beginning of the show got on to his Brown Bear car wash routine. Everybody's been through a Brown Bear car wash. And Stretch admitted he has an unlimited pass. He pays for it monthly. It's like 27 or $28, unlimited. I don't wash my car often. I don't even know. I watched it yesterday based on this. He washes it twice a week, his car. And Sandmeyer and I are fascinated by this. Fascinated by his dedication to having such a clean car. Because the rest of his life, a complete chaos and dirty. But his car, twice a week, unlimited Brown Bear car wash subscription that he has, membership. The full Sports Pit this week, Brown Bear car wash episode with myself, Sandmeyer, and Stretch is now available. Talk about that. We talk about Cal All-Star Game, everything related to your Los Marineros. This week's Sports Pit is out. Go to pucksports.com and sign up to become a Pucks Posse member today. God, it just is great. I mean, we all have our weird things. And I don't even think it's weird. But it's just, we all have kind of our things that we like or that we do that others would think was odd. That's a little different to go twice a week there to the Brown Bear car wash. All right. Big thanks to John Canzano today, Jim Duquette as well for joining me. In case you missed any of that, Jim and I discussed a lot about Eugenio Suarez, whether or not that will be a viable fit for Seattle. And so if you missed that, go back and watch the episode up on YouTube. You can listen to it on your favorite podcast platforms as well. And, of course, always up at pucksports.com. And John Canzano was on just moments ago, recapping the latest there with Texas State, what finally led to them joining the conference and what and who is next, if anyone, Again, that's up on YouTube and your favorite podcast platforms as well. All right. We wrap it up with Hey, What the Puck, brought to you by Restoration One in North Seattle. Your restoration company lets you avoid the stress of water, fire, mold damage. Their property restoration services, locally owned and operated. Make them your first call when those damages affect your residential or commercial property. 206-817-8917. Visit them online at restoration1.com, the North Seattle franchise. I'm serious on this one, just to wrap it up, conversation we had with Duquette. If somehow, some way, Alejandro Kirk wins this fan voting and is voted as the starting catcher, Rob Manfred needs to step in and somebody in baseball and say, no, that's not going to happen. Because there's no way that Cal Raleigh should not be the starting catcher for the American League. Now, I hope all you fans out there, we vote, and it's not a problem, but come on. No way should Alejandro Kirk win the fan voting and be the American League starting catcher when a guy is putting up just incredible numbers this year. All right? Don't let Canada win. That's my message to you. That's Hey, What the Puck, brought to you by Restoration One in North Seattle. It's your restoration company that lets you avoid the stress of water, fire, mold damage. Give me a call, 206-817-8917. Thank you to everyone watching and listening today. Thanks to Limback Lumber. Of course, Zeke's Pizza bringing you John Canzano and Restoration One. Today's Daily Puck Drop, find it up on YouTube. Please subscribe to the channel. You can also find the Daily Puck Drop on your favorite podcast platforms and up at pucksports.com. When you're there, please sign up to become a member of the Pucks Posse. Just $5 a month. All it costs you. You get all the free content, plus VIP bonus shows that we do. Baseball coverage with Ryan Divish. Sports Pit with Steve Sandmeyer and Matt Stretch Johnson. Thursdays with Mitchie the Kid, Mitch Unfiltered, Mitch Levy. Go check out his brand new podcast that's out this week, by the way. And, of course, we produce now the Garage with Gas Take 5 podcast. You can find on YouTube and all podcast platforms at pucksports.com. All right, coming up tomorrow, Go-To Guy is back. We're going to record the Go-To Guy because he's got something going on. We're going to talk about and go read it at Jim Moore, the Go-To Guy, Substack.com. He put together his top 10 sports radio list of all time in Seattle. Go read that. We discussed that tomorrow with Jim. Ryan Divish, our MLB insider, is back. We'll talk all things baseball with Divish. And he is back just for this week. We thought we would check in with him. It's July 1st. Well, it'll be July 2nd tomorrow. And we haven't talked to this guy in a long, long time. And he posted something the other day on social media that got me thinking, because it's exactly what I thought when he posted it as well. Our good friend, Rob Staten, talking Seahawks football, is going to be with us tomorrow. Reminder, tomorrow's show is the last one for the week. No shows Thursday, no shows Friday, so everyone can celebrate their long 4th of July weekend. As always, appreciate, again, everyone watching and listening. Thank you to all. Without your support, we couldn't do this every single day, so thank you, thank you, thank you. All right, we'll talk to you tomorrow. As always, promise to be better.
No shoes, no ties.
Would anybody like to smoke some pot?
Yeah.
I was born to love you. I was born to lick your face. I was born to rub you. But you were born to rub me first.
What do you need my address for?
We'd like to send out a mailer.
Mother of mercy, I don't speak Japanese!